Good evening. I'd like to call the March 11th, 2020 Board of Education meeting to order. At this time, I'd like to ask Ms. Dwan Craft if she would lead us in the invocation.
Thank you. An important song, and this is taken from Puppies for Sale and Other Inspirational Tales by Dan Clark. In 1893, a teacher from Wellesley College journeyed west. Travel was difficult in those days and relatively slow. She had to stop along plenty of time to look around and see the beauties of this great land. Catherine Lee Bates visited the Columbian Exposition in Chicago. Then she was on her way again, traveling across the plains of Middle America with mile after mile of ripened grain blowing like ocean waves. She came to the Rocky Mountains, purple in the late summer sky, and she climbed Pikes Peak to reach the Continental Divide, where she could see America stretching from horizon to horizon. Catherine Lee Bates was so moved by the experience that she jotted a few words to capture her feelings. Oh, beautiful for spacious skies, for amber waves of grain, for purple mountains' majesty above the fruited plain. America, America, God shed his grace on thee, and crown thy good with brotherhood from sea to shining sea. She wrote about pilgrim feet beating a thoroughfare for freedom, about heroes who love their country more than self, about a patriot dream that sees beyond the years, and about alabaster cities undimmed by human tears. 100 years after Catherine Lee Bates penned these words, they still describe this remarkable land of freedom. Is it any wonder we love to sing America the Beautiful so often? Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Craft. Principal Angel Lasher is going to lead us with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Good evening. This is Waverly Woodard. She's a first grader in Miss Bell's class. You ready? All right, go ahead.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you very much. At this time, we're going to recognize teacher bonus recognition, assistant superintendent.
Spotlight.
Oh, I'm sorry, Miss Lasher, your school spotlight for W.T. Griggs.
All right, good evening, Mr. Stefanik, Chairwoman, Miss Etheridge, and members of the board. We did something new this year at Griggs Elementary School a couple weeks ago. In honor of Dr. Seuss Week, we did a literacy fair, so kind of think science fair, but with books. Miss Wallace, my media specialist, and Miss Forehand, a Title I teacher, kicked it off and started the whole project. It was voluntary this year, so it was just pure choice if you wanted to do it. And we have some of our students, they went way out. I could not believe some of the projects that they brought in. Ms. Wallace is going to speak a little bit about it, and then we have some students here. We tried to get at least one from each grade level to bring their project up and share it with you tonight.
I'll just bring her project to hold for a minute.
They're amazing.
This past fall, I went to a library conference, and this was actually displayed at a high school level. And I thought it would be really neat at an elementary level because our kids love books, and there would be a really neat variety of books to display and market for our school. And we thought for Read Across America, it would just be a great thing to do to promote reading. So our kids did a fantastic job, and we are just so impressed with everything they've done. And we'll start with Michaela here.
Hello, my name is Michaela Allen, and I'm in 5th grade. I did my literacy prayer project on smack dab in the middle of Maybe because it's one of my favorite books in the Battle of the Books and my favorite of all the books I've read so far. The main character is a girl named Cricket. Her father died of a blood clot when she was young, and her mom ran away to find the bird room. She runs away from her Aunt Belinda and tries to solve Mr. Bob's clue trail. She finds her treehouse that her dad made her and stays there with her pet cricket that she found at the grocery store named Charlene. She gets bit by a copperhead snake and goes toward the hickory smoke that she sees in the forest. She winds up in the house of the bird room, and the lady that lives there helps her solve the riddles, and they find her mama. But her mama is with another man now. So she stays with the nice lady that apparently was Bob's friend and visits her mama usually every weekend. I really love this book. When I read it, I was on the edge of my seat the whole time. I would definitely recommend this book.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, look at that.
Oh, pull it down.
Hi, hello, my name is Waverly Woodard. I am in first grade, and I did my literacy fair project on Go Dog Go. It's about dogs and cars racing and trying to figure out a problem.
Awesome.
And there is hats on the dogs for the dogs.
I bet you like Secret Life of Pets, don't you? That movie? Have you seen that one? No, you haven't. Okay, you have to see it. That's about a lot of dogs and cats.
Did a great job.
Thank you.
Good job.
Oh, wow. Look at that one.
Hello, my name is Bronx McQueen, and I'm in the second grade at Griggs Elementary. I did my literacy fair project. The book is The Bernstein Bears and the Green-Eyed Monster, and the main characters are brother, sister, mama, papa, and the Green-Eyed Monster. So, and the setting is the big treehouse down a sunny dirt road in Bear Country, and the conflict. The conflict is brother gets a big beautiful racing bike for his birthday, and Sister Bear becomes full of envy and jealousy. The solution is, after the Green-Eyed Monster pays Sister a visit in her dream, Sister Bear thought that brother's old tricycle was a good fit for her, and the review. I really enjoyed reading this book. I would recommend it to a friend, and it teaches you that if someone gets something new, don't envy them for it. Just be happy for them.
Very good.
I love those eyes.
Yes.
Reminds me of my sister.
I love this book.
Oh, wow.
My favorite books.
My name is Grace Dykeler, and I'm in second grade. I like the book because it teaches you to be yourself. I like doing the project because I like to do art.
Awesome job.
Great job.
My name is Carter, and I'm in kindergarten.
Oh.
I like the part when he took the bubble gum. The title of the book, Pete and the Bad Banana. I like making the bad banana.
Like the banana.
Very good. Yeah. Oh my goodness, look at this one.
Oh, this was the one I read.
Isn't that something? Okay. Great Treehouse War.
Okay. Hello, my name is Cassandra Cunningham, and I'm in fourth grade. I'm on the school's Battle of the Books team. Today I'm going to tell you why I chose this book and why I like it. The book I chose is The Great Treehouse War. This is definitely a book on my favorite list. I picked this book because it's written as a memoir. I like this because Winnie, the main character of the book, her friends are telling her information throughout the book with post-it notes. And I really recommend this book to people who haven't read it. It's a 5-star review on my list.
So as you can see, they did a great job. We were very, very impressed. So we're super excited to continue this next year and hope to make it kind of an annual event. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
Karen,
Yes.
I had the opportunity to come to be at the literacy fair, and I am usually the work with the Battle of the Books, and so the last one, the Great Treehouse Mystery or War, I'm sorry, intrigued me so much that I borrowed the book from the library, and I finished it in like 2 days, and now I'm ready to start on another one. So you guys did a wonderful job.
That's awesome. If you could, can we have the students come back up, state your name again and what grade you're in, and maybe get a photo if Miss Dowdy's here. If she could take a photo of all of you. But you did a great job, and we're so happy to have you here with us tonight, displaying your work. No, just the students and...
Again, and what grade you're in.
My name is Carter, and I'm in kindergarten. My name is Grace, and I'm in second grade.
My name is Bronx. I'm in second grade.
My name is Waverly, and I'm in first grade.
My name is CJ, and I'm in fourth grade.
My name's Michaela, and I'm in 5th grade.
Awesome. Thanks again. And Miss Dowdy's going to get your picture, so smile. They're tall. Y'all are tall.
Do that? All right, guys. We're going to go on. Everybody up here first. We'll do it all at the same time.
Ooh, y'all are celebrities.
All right, on 3. 1, 2, 3. Good job.
Keep up the good work. Miss Dowdy, if you want to come forward with Dr. Lutz and assist us with the teacher bonus recognition.
Good evening, Chairman Etheridge, members of the board, Superintendent Stefanik. It is our pleasure to come back before you again this evening to recognize those third grade outstanding educators whose names were finally approved by the state to receive their recognition for student growth. As a reminder, for a teacher in grades 3 through 8 to be eligible to earn a performance bonus, they must have taught the previous school year reading, rank in the top 25% of the state and or LEA based on EVOS scores in reading, and still be teaching for the Currituck County School District. Now, please join me in recognizing the following educators for their outstanding performance in grade 3 reading. Chelsea Eves, Jarvisburg Elementary. Top 25% in the state, top 25% in the LEA. Megan Matera, Central Elementary School. Megan was top 25% in the state. Lindsay Adams, Sharborough Elementary. Top 25% in the state, top 25% in the LEA. And finally, Annette Markham from Griggs Elementary. She was not able to make it with us tonight, but she also was top 25% in the state and top 25% in the LEA. Thank you.
My mom would be up there doing it still.
Mine too.
Chairman Etheridge, members of the board, Superintendent Stefanik, last month we recognized our outstanding educators for their performance bonuses.
Miss Dowdy, hold on one second. Well, yes, whoever would like to leave, we know it's a school night, so be safe on the roads, and we completely understand.
Oh.
Not you.
School night for me.
School night.
Good
yeah.
try.
Good try, Mark. That's good. Huh? Yeah. His kids must attend Griggs. Or two. I don't think his youngest is in.
Oh, the little girl sure looks like Ben. I mean, looks like his wife, doesn't it?
Yeah. She does.
Oh, no.
Sure didn't know how to clear a room. Sorry.
Clearly I know how to clear a room. Maybe I coughed or sneezed or something. I'm not sure.
Good night. Okay.
All right. I apologize. I
Okay.
didn't realize everybody was getting up behind me and leaving.
That's okay.
Last month, when we recognized our outstanding educators for their performance bonuses, I have to admit that I made an error on our AP bonuses and accidentally left out one of our outstanding AP instructors at Currituck County High School. I've apologized profusely to him for making this error and want to make sure that we recognize him this evening. Unfortunately, I don't think he's able to make it here with us tonight, but please join me in congratulating Mr. Chad Schmuck, AP US History teacher at Currituck County High School. His students' performance on the AP exam. Mr. Schmuck is receiving his performance bonus as a result of the number of students who scored a 3 or better on AP US History. Again, my apologies to Mr. Schmuck for my error and recognizing him and his peers the first go-round. And I don't think he was here. He's helping, I think, with baseball, so he's not here.
Thank you. Next public comment session. Ms. Jones, did we have anyone sign up? Okay. No one signed up to speak. So next we have our approval of our agenda, and I'd like to exclude 2 items from our agenda, which would be item number 3, which is our 2020-2021 school calendar, and our board meeting minutes for the closed session that was held February 10th, 2020, if they'd be excluded from the agenda. And at this time, do I have a
Motion for approval.
Do I have a second? All in favor?
Aye.
Any discussion? Motion carries. All right. Student board member reports. Let's start with Sydney McDonald.
Good evening. I'd like to start my reports with Moac Elementary School. March brings new exciting activities to MES, such as the District Math 24 competition and our second grade wax museum, both this Thursday. Next, our Panther Payout, Behavior Reward Day full of inflatables by Spacewalk on March 27th. Our first ever stream night, March 27th, 4 to 6 p.m. Science, technology, reading, engineering, art, and math. Various classrooms hosting authors' celebrations to celebrate students' writing achievements. I'll now do Jarvisburg Elementary School. Students and staff are working hard to prepare for Math 24 on Thursday at the Extension Center. Second Title I reading night for our One School, One Book, The Wild Robot, is Tuesday, March 17th from 5 to 7. JES's Wax Museum will be on Friday, March 27th at 9 p.m. All are 9. My mistake. All are invited to attend. Come see the collaboration between 1st and 5th grade students. I will now end with Central Elementary School. Staff at CES are trained in anxiety and reliance by Jan Culpepper at our last faculty meeting. Central is reading the book Masterpiece by Alice Broach. We have our cumulative Title I night event on March 22nd with interactive art activities and school-wide art show. I'll now pass it on to Taylor.
My first school for tonight is Charborough Elementary. As we head into March, we are celebrating Dr. Seuss with a week full of spirit days and our family Seuss night. Seuss night will be tomorrow, Thursday, March 12th from 5:30 to 7 at Charborough. Come out and join us. Our Boosterthon fun run was a huge success. We raised money to build an outdoor classroom for our students. We couldn't have done this without the support of so many of you. For that, we thank you. Tomorrow is also our County Math 24 competition. We want to wish all of our competitors good luck. March 2nd, Currituck County hosted our first annual Special Olympic basketball tournament. Thank you to all of the EC teachers and staff and PE teams that help make this event fun for our kids. Make sure you check our calendar and Facebook page often for updates and announcements. And the next school I have is Griggs Elementary. Griggs hosted our first Literacy Fair on March 2nd in honor of Dr. Seuss and Read Across America Week. Parents were invited to attend a Title I evening event to explore the different literacy projects and participate in fun Dr. Seuss theme activities. Grades 3 through 5 have been invited to participate in Spring into the Arts with our music teacher, Miss Banks. Our annual talent show will take place on Thursday, March 26th. And now I'll pass it on to Mallory.
All right, so I'm going to start with Knott's Island Elementary. Wow, I already can't talk today. Since the last board meeting, we have held monthly AR lunches with the principal. We've held a community night with our PE showcase, and we've began our joint school and community 100-year celebration planning with a super turnout at their first meeting. Upcoming, there are spring pictures on March 18th. And then as usual, it says hashtag small school big learning, hashtag island knots. From Currituck County Middle School, we have that the National Junior Beta Club just inducted 14 new members yesterday. We're hosting the Spring Into the Arts show here this Saturday, which is at Currituck County Middle School. 6th grade students took a field trip to the Chrysler Museum. Speaker Roman Gabriel from the Sold Out Youth Foundation talked about alcohol and drug abstinence. Students participated in a vocabulary jam with students from a school in France. And we just completed spring pictures today. And from Moyock Middle School, Moyock Middle is still having barking good times. Both Dr. Radke and Mrs. Kelly have been accepted into the Citizens Academy through Currituck County Government. And then it says April 2nd to May 28th, Thursday, 6:30 to 8 p.m. Our cheerleaders and wrestlers are conference champions. Capital letters. Both CCHS and JPNAP have visited our 8th graders about high school scheduling. We celebrated second 9 weeks honor roll students with an ice cream social. We attended Special Olympics at Parks and Rec. We attended the math competition at ECSU and took 3rd in Math 2 and had a student qualify for state in Math 1. Our baseball and softball season opened Monday with a double win against Hatteras. The book fair begins March 17th. We hosted Sold Out Youth Foundation speaker Roman Gabriel today. Moyock Middle School beta students will assist in the Math 24 competition on Thursday. Our luau dance is April 3rd. Our team competes in the Science Olympiad April 4th. Spring pictures will be on April 9th. And Dr. Radke and 3 teachers attending the EVAS, thank you, in the classroom training in Edenton. And then it highlights their Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook once again. Now, Olivia. Good.
I will start with JP Knapp Early College. JPK application window closes on March 17th. Enrollment is open to all 8th graders living in Currituck County. We are very excited about the high interest this year in JPK. It's looking like a record year for applications. We hosted over 100 people for our open house on March 5th. Our math team competed at the state math competition at ECSU on March 3rd. JPK math teams were big winners, with Level 1 team receiving 2nd place, Level 3 team receiving 3rd place, and 2 individual students qualified for states. In addition, A Level 1 student placed third overall in the Level 1 category. End of the third grading period is tomorrow, March 12th, and report cards will be distributed at parent conferences on March 23rd. Best of luck to our FBLA team as they travel to Greensboro March 18th through 21st for state competition. Saturday, March 14th, JPK Physical Education Department will host the Cruise to the Whalehead Club fundraising event. We invite all car enthusiasts to join in on the fun. Annual Amore Conference is scheduled for March 28th. Amore is a women's empowerment event. JPK Ag Club will host a Gourd Paint the Night fundraiser on March 27th. Come on out and enjoy some painting fun. For details on additional JPK info, check us out on our school webpage, Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. And then I will go on to Currituck County High. Today we were honored to recognize the members of our annual Virginian Pilot Scholastic Achievement Team. Led by Captain and Scholarship nominee Krista Sawyer, our team consists of fellow seniors Hannah Dozier and Laura Griffin, juniors Joanna Morris, Taylor McCarthy, and Hannah Hodge, and sophomores Jasmine Gorney, Reagan Parker, and Connor Stoden. Our Dillard Samaritan Essay nominee is Sydney McDonald. Our faculty members in School Improvement Team continue their dive into the data from the Fall Administration of North Carolina, EOCs, and final exams as they plan and refine their instruction for this spring semester. On EOCs, our fall results improved from the year before in both Math 1 and Math 3, and we also saw our pass rate in biology increase by some 11 percentage points. Tomorrow evening, some 110 Knights and their teachers will welcome the members of our freshman class of 2024 for our annual course and activities fair at the castle. The event begins at 6 p.m. Our annual winter awards ceremony, where we honor our students for their success in both the classroom and athletics, is coming Monday, March 16th, commencing at 6:30 p.m. This winter campaign saw the crowning of a NCCA state champion in cheerleading, adding to the NCHSAA state titles won last year in both ladies volleyball and cheer. These titles marked the first state championships at CCHS since 1993.
Okay. Thank you very much, Sydney, Taylor, Mallory, and Olivia. We appreciate all the work that you do for the board. I'm thankful you all in general. Field trip request.
Thank you. Is that on? I guess it's on. Okay. All right. Thank you, Chairman Etheridge. You see the field trip requests over the last month. Most of the trips have already happened. There's a softball and baseball tournament coming up this weekend. But again, look at the diversity of the activities. We've got some sports in state playoff realm. We've got regional orchestra. We got FFA. And AP government. So a lot of activities and a lot of different areas going on in our school district. So a lot of opportunities for the students to excel.
Yes. I'd like to discuss athletic scoreboards.
Yeah, I've been receiving a lot of calls and emails in regards to particularly baseball, softball scoreboards at the high school and at the middle schools as well. So with that, I'd like to talk to Mr. Parker. Maybe he could explain this handout that we have with the estimated cost.
Thank you and good evening. What you have before you on that handout is basically a breakdown of two vendors giving us quotes for scoreboards. Initially it started out that we were looking at swapping out baseball at the high school, softball at the high school, and then the two middle school baseball and softball scoreboards as well. That quote came back right around $23,000 just to do an even swap of what they have now. Baseball did want the option of looking at upgrading with a bigger board, a 20-foot scoreboard with inning by inning features. With that kind of opened up the concern for Title IX that softball would also have to get something comparable, not necessarily the same size or the same cost, but something that had similar features. So that $23,000 estimate, when we added in the upgrades in the scoreboards and now installing the scoreboards, went from about $23,000 to about $55,000. Since that, I have been able to negotiate with All-American. We've got them down to about $50,000. So right now, we're kind of in a holding pattern to see exactly what we're going to do as far as funding. I know the board was willing to possibly put in the amount for the even swap, and baseball was looking at possibly fundraising, and some of the other corporate areas around here may be sponsoring us for it. So if you have any questions, I can certainly entertain those.
But you have to do the same thing. If the high school were to be able to take donations, would the softball team and parents be willing to do the same thing?
They would be willing to at some extent, but they're not necessarily needed to by Title IX. Title IX basically says wherever the funding comes from, it's our job to make sure it's spread out evenly.
Okay. So you're saying if the baseball parents have fundraisers and softball parents don't?
Correct. Then softball can say, I want
Equal.
something
Spread the
similar.
wealth.
Correct, right.
Well, a little clarification on that. You have an option. You either spread the wealth, or it's the district's responsibility to make things comparable. So if you don't spread the wealth from the baseball fundraising, if all that stays with baseball, then it would be district capital outlay funds that would cover the additional expenses for softball.
So does that include the middle schools?
The middle school is included in that
Included,
$55,000, $50,000 price, because we have negotiated it down from $55,000 to about $50,000.
And these are just the baseball and softball?
Baseball and softball.
Soccer, not
No
included?
soccer, no indoor basketball ones or anything, no. So 4 scoreboards basically for either $23,000 or with the upgrades and following Title IX, roughly about double that, more than double that.
Wait a minute, sir, because I'm looking at baseball and softball for the high school.
Correct.
I'm looking at 2 times at the middle school for baseball, right? And no.
2 times, correct.
Okay, and then softball the same, right?
Okay, if you're looking at baseball with the upgrade, the 9-inning board.
No, sir, I'm on the second page. I'm trying to understand that.
Okay. All right, walk me back through what you're asking.
I'm looking at, for the middle schools, it looks to me like we have 2 times each item.
It would be 2 times. So if you go with the basic one with the balls and strikes as dots, it's going to be roughly $4,100 times 2. So that puts you at roughly $8,200, $8,300. You go with a slightly upgraded model with the balls and strikes being numbers, then you're about $5,000 times 2. So roughly $9,000 to $10,000 at the middle school. And then you throw in, without upgrades, with baseball and softball, you're looking at another $13,000 at the high school.
So all of these need replacing. Are they all broken?
They're all pretty much shot. Yes, ma'am.
So, I'm sorry.
I just wondered, they didn't all break just this year?
No. The middle school, to my knowledge, has not worked in probably 4 years.
4 years?
Correct.
Just so I'm understanding clearly, if we stay on All-American and we look at the baseball with the 9 innings,
correct,
with the labor and everything else included, logo, controller,
correct,
that's $14,850.
Yes, sir. That's actually $23,000 because the $2,315 was the initial labor price, and then it more than, tripled when we started talking about steel beams, the amount of concrete that was needed to meet the wind restrictions. Okay. So that $23,313 was going to be for him to bring it out and install it if there were no additional beams needed. So that's why if you see the extra work needed price is kind of left blank. That was what came in late. It's about $9,000.
That's why I'm not following the math. Okay, it's not on there. All right, yes, sir. So what I would think we could do, possibly, if we were to try to revise to the larger boards, my suggestion would be get our drawing either from the vendor with the engineer stamp or have our own engineer give a stamp as to what installation would need to be done. But it looks to me like roughly what we're saying is $26,000 for install if we went to the upgraded boards for those 2 boards.
For those 2 boards, okay, which he did knock about $4,000 off. So.
Okay, so let's just say it's $22,000.
$22,000, correct.
My point being is to get 2 of those boards installed at the high school, I would like to think we could outsource that to a contractor to meet whatever specs of install for less money than that locally, I believe. And I don't know, I'd like to see them improved. I was out at the high school. I did see the condition of them. I feel like, if nothing else, we should seriously consider replacing with like, and if we wanted to explore the avenue of going with the larger ones, I'm not opposed to that. However, I'm not in favor of spending $26,000 additionally just for 2 installs. So I guess what I'm trying to do is remedy the problem, but within our means.
I've been out and I've talked to both coaches, and I know that we've got awesome coaches, and our kids deserve scoreboards that work. Mr. Stefanik, you've already met with our coaches. You've already got the ball rolling with this. Can you share with us what you've got going?
I met with Mr. Parker and the coaches. As I said in a written communication to the board, Coach Hill is very passionate about his field and the resources that go into that field. He has stated that many of the other schools in our conference or in this area, even if they're not in our conference, have the upgraded scoreboard. And so his belief is that we should at least be comparable to our competitors. And since we're one of the largest schools in the area, his belief is we should have the best, facilities of anybody in the area or anybody in the conference. And so that's where the upgraded scoreboard with the inning by inning features come in. And for softball, Coach Booker said, it can't be the identical scoreboard. It would swallow up the outfield. It would be just way too big for a girls' softball facility. But to get a comparable one, there is a comparable one that doesn't have the span of the baseball one, but it would count as an upgrade to the base scoreboard that is there currently. And so if they get the upgrade, it's our belief that that would satisfy that both facilities are operating with an upgraded scoreboard system.
Are we able to move forward now with the middle school scoreboards?
I can call
and we would just put off the high school scoreboards until next year? Is that what we're looking at?
Well, yeah, what happens, and I'll reference something that's near and dear to the board's heart, the timeline that we're going through with the greenhouse. That's kind of what we're going to undertake with the new scoreboards, because they need new posts, they need additional concrete, so we have to go through the whole planning process, just like it's a building, and they have to get inspected. They have to make sure that they can handle the weather elements in this area, particularly the wind. And so to get all that done with the approval timelines, by the time they would go up, our best case scenario is we might have them ready for the last week of the season. So just to stay out of the way at the baseball facility, we could start the process, but then it would probably be completed over the summer or in the fall, and then it would be ready to roll for next season.
Well, where are we with getting the money for these?
Last I heard, you were doing some pretty good fundraising efforts.
Not $50,000.
Again, our commitment was that if it's broken, we shall fix it. If you build it, they will come. Type of things. So we were in the commitment to replace what was there currently, and then I know Mr. Hill had talked about doing some of his own fundraising to try to come up with the money. If he came up with the money, or with the extended efforts that you're trying to lead, that you told me about, if that comes up with the baseball side, then we would find a way to work within our capital outlay funding to cover the difference in the softball
Let me ask you
scoreboard.
this. You talked about what you do for one, you do for the other.
Right.
It sounds like Miss Booker would be fine with the newer one, but possibly not the upgraded version.
Right.
Could we do the upgraded for the baseball and the standard for the softball? You can't.
It does not really matter what the coach thinks. It matters what the Office of Civil Rights would come in and
That they
claim.
have to
They have
be
to be
identical.
something
So if
comparable.
you have some,
Yeah.
Comparable meaning if this one has the bells and whistles of inning by
The other
inning,
one
then we
has
should
to.
probably do inning by inning for the other
Yeah,
one.
it's basically if anybody from the community would drive through and they would go like, man, they sure put a lot of money into baseball, and they just kind of do the basics for softball. If that's the impression, then the Office of Civil Rights is going to say you didn't take care of that second sport.
Just one thing to think about, if we were to like go through and do these different facilities for like the middle schools and high schools for like fields and stuff for scoreboards, how do you think other athletes and other parents are going to feel about scoreboards for different athletics? Like, for example, at the high school, there's a scoreboard used for two sports, volleyball and basketball. And it's not broken, but it's also, there's some things wrong with it.
It's really old.
Yes, so I'm just saying, yeah. So that's what I'm
Well,
saying.
they all
I
work
think
now.
it's going to trigger another discussion.
Well, yes, ma'am.
Fixed.
And I appreciate you bringing that to the point, because we're realizing that there's a lot of needs. Some of them are wants. You just mentioned some more needs. So if we go ahead and take care of these needs right now, then hopefully in the next budget cycle, we'll have money for those needs. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to address the ones that come before me. In fact, those were on my list. And then I was informed that they were repaired. Now, how long that will last, I can't honestly say. But what I am saying is, I say we go ahead and fix the ones that aren't working right now, today, and then we'll be more in a position to take care of more as those needs come up.
Yeah, they're right in style because they're vintage.
Okay.
Vintage is coming back.
There's always things that need to be fixed. There's always people that are going to want something new. I was just saying, if this happens,
Well-
it's definitely going to trigger a discussion among other athletes and other parents.
Because I was thinking that because I see more inside games and, you know.
Well, I was over Knott's Island, and I did notice they had a really nice one, and I asked Mr. Wright how often they use that, and he said, well, not too much. I said, yeah, well, we're taking it over to the
He suddenly decided that he
said,
needed
well,
it.
maybe I'll start
Yeah.
incorporating that in some of our programs.
Yeah.
So, Taylor, you're probably thinking about the scoreboard not working during volleyball, but it did get fixed for
It has been
basketball.
fixed, yes. It
So
was told
it
originally-
works. It'll be ready for you next year. Okay.
Until you hit a serve off of it or something like that. If you,
And I appreciate that. But what we're trying to do is, as we hear the calls, we're trying to do what we can. And I think what we should do is, I think we should go ahead and buy all these boards. And then I think we should get an engineering stamped installation for the two improved ones. And we ought to put the installation out to bid, and we'll come in much less, I perceive, than the price that we're quoted. So we won't spend $50,000.
Yeah, but by the time we purchased them now and went through all the permitting processes, seasons are going to be over.
Well, they're going to be anyway, isn't that what you said? We might get it done for the last game.
If we were to order them right now, according to the vendors, they would probably take about 5 to 6 weeks to come in.
Well, both coaches indicated to me that, they were willing to wait for the nice.
Right.
They didn't need it right now.
That's what
would
Mr.
make
Hill
do.
told me too.
Yeah, Mr. Hill, and I do want to commend him on that field
the
out
field is
there
beautiful.
and the
No doubt.
brickwork, and I know he's got a lot of supportive parents that support his program with money and fundraisers, and
So let's do some more of that.
and I also know, as you're saying, that what his field needs, it's a larger field, would overshadow the softball field.
Right.
They need a good scoreboard, but they can't handle one the size of his.
That's why on that quote,
Yeah.
you'll see a comparable one that drops
Yeah.
down about 4 feet. So I think his is 20 feet, and this is 16 feet, if I'm not
Yeah.
mistaken.
So
Can we get any
can we make a motion to go ahead and authorize getting them moving so that they will be available for next season? Can we do that? I'll make a motion.
Okay, motion's on the floor. We have a second.
I second.
Any discussion?
Yes. I thought they were going to try to raise some funds, to go towards paying for these. If we order them now, they're just going to say, what do we
Where's
need to
the
raise our
money?
Right.
Well,
But we're not raising funds for the two middle schools.
Yeah,
I
but
think
their
it needs to be a
scoreboards are a whole lot
collaborative
less.
effort. If they're all getting
One pot.
scoreboards, then they need to work together.
Pot of funds.
You're saying everybody needs to fundraise? Is that what you're
I mean,
saying?
I think that if the teams that are if we have to do them all, and if we have a fundraiser, then we have to share the wealth, or we have to come up with it, then I think they need to work together if they want them to fundraise. I agree that the fundraising, especially since we know we can't get them this year anyway.
Mr. Parker, do you have anyone that you can think of that would want to head up that effort?
I can look, yes. Yeah, we can find some.
Because it would be one fundraiser
Right.
for all the scoreboards, or these 4 specific
Right.
scoreboards, and then one pot of money that would be distributed equally.
Isn't that reasonable?
I believe so, yes.
Okay.
Can we
Now,
at least
with the middle
authorize the money for replacing like tonight? And then in the meanwhile,
For replacing what?
Just the light kind.
Like-
So what is the need?
No. What's
right this
broken?
minute?
What's broken?
Middle school is completely out, not functioning at
Okay.
all.
Okay.
All right. Baseball and softball are somewhat functioning, but they're circuit boards that it costs just as much as the scoreboards are replaced now.
I almost think we need something for the
so-
middle school.
I can start the process with the middle school. We can order all 4 scoreboards at no installation price, so that takes your $22,000 off of it. And if Mr. Mullins or someone has a place to store them until the other funds to install, and we find out who is going to install, then we can do that.
Are you talking about the upgraded scoreboards?
Upgraded scoreboards, right.
Do the middle school scoreboards have to go through the permitting process like the big one, Mark?
No, according to the vendor that came out, it could be an even swap with those. The steel beams that are there would just, take that scoreboard down and bracket it up, and it would be good to go. And it was something I believe our school plants could actually do themselves.
Well, we could get the middle school scoreboards right now,
But you're saying
and then
5 to 6 weeks.
reassess,
5 to 6 weeks if we ordered.
the, upgraded scoreboards when we do our capital outlay budget.
when is that?
May.
May.
We got to have the budget May 15th.
Well, why don't we do the 2 middle schools right now?
That are broken.
Yeah, and authorize repair, replace like at the 2 other schools, but not spend that money. Get our fundraising effort, get all that information at the next capital, but at least meeting. But at least now, we've at least authorized money to do something.
I agree. I just think that we need to make sure that the middle schools realize that they will need to be a part of the fundraising, because I think it's important that they learn to work together and realize that.
Well,
As
they're
far-
going to leave middle school, and they're going to play at the high school.
Right.
And they're going to a big scoreboard. So that's how you sell them on
Right,
helping with the
right.
installation costs.
Yeah.
I thought but now I'm hearing Mr. Croddick say, get the lights going, get them working at the high school, but I thought you said,
Yeah.
No.
okay, so we don't want to do that.
He said like model scoreboard. He was talking the
I'm
like
talking
model, not
about-
the
Upgraded version,
Oh.
not the upgraded,
I'm
the
talking
same.
about authorizing money for the like ones.
I
at
see,
this
and
moment,
raise the difference.
and not spending it. You try to do what you can. We'll try to reassess at the capital for those 2 larger school boards, but for the moment, we're going to authorize, what I would like to see is authorize the 2 middle schools and the cost of like boards at the high school, with the hopes that we will get help with the fundraising and we would outsource the installation.
How much did you say, Matt?
50,000.
4,000.
He's saying right now, we can authorize up to, what was it, the light boards was 22 or 24.
Roughly $23,000. So you're authorizing $23,000 out of a $50,000 balance, hoping that we can find someone to subcontract out and get it down some.
And so then you're counting on fundraising $27,000?
$27,000 and outsourcing or getting down,
Or,
like
or
Mr. Craddock's saying, to
outsourcing. If you
outsource.
have a concrete contractor that could
Correct.
donate the concrete and someone to finish it, and
I think
some of the
that's
labor
a lot of
costs,
money to
get that
fundraise.
down.
Will, you want to modify your motion?
Motion.
Yeah, and I want to be clear. I don't think we're going to have to fundraise $26,000, okay? What I think we're going to find is when we put it out for bid, there's going to be somebody that's going to do the 2 of them for a lot less money than that. But my motion, what I'd like to do is authorize, how much money did you say, sir?
Roughly $23,000.
I'd like to authorize $25,000 right now to replace the 2 scoreboards at the middle schools.
Correct.
And the 2 scoreboards at the high school, but we won't order them
Hold that
with the
balance.
hopes that by May, we will be able to get the larger scoreboards through fundraising, bidding the installation down, and us absorbing a little additional costs with our capital money.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion?
It's a lot of unknowns there.
Life is made of unknowns.
Yeah, we'll have the scoreboards, though, if they don't raise the money. They like scoreboards.
Yeah.
I guess my question is, do we have this money?
She said she could go up to 75. I talked to her before we got over here.
Mr. Matt? Funding, about 24,000.
And are you going to have to do away with something else because of that?
Well, it's there for emergency, so if something else breaks, we'll
Well, the middle schools.
Yeah, but you're not ordering the 2. We're just holding the money.
Just ordering the 2.
Yeah, just put the money aside. Okay, so we have a first, we have a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. All opposed? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Parker.
Politely asking from an athlete who doesn't need a scoreboard, just as a question, our track right now literally is in the condition that our athletes are getting injured because of it. Our jumpers are slipping off of their root foot, which is supposed to be rooted. And that's also a physical education track, so I was just wondering, like...
That is on the capital outlay,
Right.
and we've got it priced out at just under $200,000 to put towards it. Yes.
That'll come up.
Just a
in-
question.
No, that's good, Cindy. We
Yes.
need to know all of these things, and that's going to be on our May capital outlay budget as one of the things that we need to address. But
When-
don't feel bad about bringing any of that to our attention because we need to know that.
Because it's
When
like
did
it's
the
more
track
than
get
that's
in
just a
this
sport at
condition?
that point. It's also our
Past
education.
couple
So
years
it's like
is
That's
getting
right.
worse
A lot.
and worse.
Yeah.
So the more meat you hold on it, and the
Yeah, I
the-
noticed
It was noticed during football season, and so
And
it's
I
been
got a
on our
plan for
radar.
that.
Okay.
that's great to hear.
Yep, yep. We're going. I can't promise you that it's going to happen this year, but I got a plan for that. Kind of like what happened with that failing wall. Okay,
Okay,
we got that fixed.
got it.
Got a plan.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, Mr. Parker. Appreciate it. Dr. Bill Dobney would like to discuss our high school tournament schedule and travel.
Okay,
Dobney?
Mr. Parker, you want to come back?
Come back. Come back.
And Dr. Lutz, could you come up to the front seats here because I'm going to call on you during this discussion. And also Sydney and Taylor, since you're both student athletes, I want you to comment on this at the end.
Well, I'm back here tonight because I wanted to update the board on a reoccurring issue with the North Carolina High School League and Currituck High School, as well as other high schools in our area. And that issue basically is the concern of playoff travel for our athletic teams during the first round, second round, third rounds, early rounds. You know, by the time you get to the fourth round, you're expecting some type of travel. I did create a little spreadsheet that gives a snapshot of some data and some of the events this year. It shows the distances that our teams actually traveled, and more importantly, the amount of class time that they are actually missing because of this dilemma. Again, it's a small snapshot of this year, but I can confirm that every year it happens. Now, the good news is with volleyball, a lot of the teams had to come to us the past couple years. But this year, third round, we did have some travel in volleyball. But as an AD for nearly 15 years, I can tell you this is a unique problem to North Carolina, but it can be reduced with some type of effort and collaboration through the schools. Currituck's offered ideas in the past to the high school league, but it met
Now,
very,
that's
very...
also, when he said offered suggestions in the past, this is to the North Carolina High School Athletic Association.
Correct.
That governs all high school athletics.
Right. And it met very, very little support, even from those in our region. Most feel that it's an unfortunate situation, but it only affects a small percentage of the 419 membership schools. I'll continue to fight this battle. I'll continue to go up there and say we've got to do something with travel. I mean, I've thrown out ideas, but again, they don't think it affects them, so they kind of ignore it. But I absolutely need the support of local principals and local superintendents. So if there's a principals association and a superintendents association that we can get together and kind of fight this beast together, I think they would hear it more from superintendents and principals than just a couple of athletic directors. To be honest with you, went up, I think, 3 years ago,
Right.
and we argued it. And some
We
of the
suggested dividing the state into like a northeast and southeast
four
region.
equal regions, right?
Yeah.
What the state does now, and it's kind of hard to picture, what they want to do is they want the best 64 teams, and we'll use basketball as the example. So they grab all 64 teams that have the best overall rankings, and they drop them on the map where they fall, and then they start drawing the regions. So if you're heavily populated in your regions over here, then that region's going to be a lot more smaller as far as the number of, or the area and the travel. But if your teams are spread out more and more, there's 64, then you're going to travel more and more. What they should do, in my mind, is forget about the best 64 teams and just take the best 16 from a designated region, an East, a Mid-East, a Midwest, and a West. Let those 16 teams play down to maybe the final 2 or 4 teams, and then start cross-bracketing where your travel would come in. They did not like that offer. One AD stood up and actually criticized it and said that's the old POS system that we tried years ago, and coaches were frustrated with playing the same teams over and over again. My comment to that was the coaches don't write the checks. We have to write the checks. So if I have to play first flight for a third time or a fourth time, I'm willing to do that to save a little bit of travel. I mean, to be the best, you got to beat the best. But they did not like that idea. The other idea was to try to find neutral sites. So if you look at our spreadsheet, basketball is the one that stands out this year that just happened last month. We had to travel to Moorhead High School, which is outside of Eden, North Carolina, about 260 miles away. What they could have done is, if we're all member schools of the North Carolina High School League, is find whatever school was in the middle. It's our job as members to that high school league that we know that we're on call to host at any time, and bring 2 or 4 teams there and play a doubleheader. Our fans certainly would travel 120 miles versus 260 miles, 270 miles. I think, to quote some of our fans, we might have had 3 or 4 fans in the stands there. You do that halfway, again, I think the gate and the revenue is going to come up higher, and it's going to be less travel and less missed school time. In this situation on the spreadsheet, if you see round 1, our boys basketball team did travel 260 miles, and they pulled out the upset. They were a number 27 seed and upset a number 6 seed. But their golden prize was load up on a bus, come back Wednesday late afternoon, and load up a bus Thursday morning and travel back 285 miles for the next round. So taking driver safety and concern and the wear and tear on the driver, we just left them up there because literally the schools were about an hour away from each other. So we pay for an extra hotel room for an extra night. The school time would have been missed anyway in that travel back and forth. So, again, I'm willing to fight it, but I think it needs to also come from some higher-ups that can have a little bit more say in it. But if there's any questions on that summer, I'm willing to answer.
Dr. Lutz, can you come up for a second?
I got a quick question, if you don't mind.
Go ahead.
So how is this North Carolina Athletic Association, I mean, how does
Oh, I'm going to cover that in my presentation here.
All right.
They are our governing body. In order to participate, have the insurance and all like that, you have to be a member to that school, which means you're upholding to their rules. Now, again, they say that we are the North Carolina High School League as a whole, so we can come up with the rules and we can come up with the rule changes. It's just when you're that small percentage or that minority trying to change something, you've got 419 other schools that are right there saying, yeah, we like the way it is.
I have one question. What is their argument? Is it because if you did 16 times 4, you might have 17, 18, 19, 20 that were better
records
than 16?
Correct.
So they lose out. Is that the argument?
That's part of the argument, and that they've tried it before, and coaches were upset that they were playing the same team multiple times.
Okay, how far did you have to travel to your one game?
We almost went down to Pedro on the border.
Yeah.
Been there.
We're just talking about
Down, I mean, it was
Karen's favorite
it was
place.
further than that, Fairmont. And then also, I think, when we're looking at the cost and so on, I think the other thing that I find very disturbing that the state does is that you play a game on a Tuesday night, and then they have you play again on Thursday, and then again on Saturday.
Yeah.
So the student-athlete component of this is completely lost.
Yeah.
a whole week of school, really.
You missed the week, and because that's 285 miles one direction.
Right.
That's that part I really don't get. So it almost becomes like attrition versus,
Sure.
determining who the best. But Ms. Rose, you were correct in that they're trying to avoid the the back end. Well, ultimately, like in the 2A division, Farmville played Kinston, which made sense, and they eventually, you play each other the best teams are going to come out.
Right.
So whether they're playing in the second or third round is.
But I
Yeah,
think,
well, let me just get mine out of the way here. The North Carolina High School Athletic Association is in and of itself its own body. It's not accountable to anyone else. And yet they have our kids, the student athletes, missing a lot of school. Which, makes no sense at all. And then on one part of his other slide, which is up there, for these 5 games, volleyball, football, basketball, round 1, round 2, and soccer, it cost us $1,872. But the High School Athletic Association, because they always get their share first before anybody else, they made $2,537.85. So on this,
That's times 32 other games.
Oh, sure.
This is just one set of games here, and you've got 64 teams. So
And they're going to take theirs right off the top.
they're going to take it right off the top.
It's even more
Gives them
pronounced.
that authority. I mean, is
Nobody.
it the General Assembly?
No,
Who
they're
can take it?
they're accountable to nobody. That's what I'm saying.
Do they have a board?
They do have a board, and it has some of our superintendents, locally, the superintendents on that board. So again, that's where I like to start, is trying to get.
And how do they get on the board?
They put themselves in for a nomination, and then it's voted.
We tried to get Mr. Parker on the board this year, and he wasn't selected. So we don't like the selection process.
Well,
Too many waves.
Yeah. Well, what I would like to happen, I would like, Mr. Stefanik to write a letter on behalf of our board talking about they've lost sight of the student and student athlete. And then I would like this mailed, because we haven't made any headway through the High School Athletic Association. I would like this mailed to Mark Johnson, the present state superintendent, whoever the new incoming state superintendent will be. Send a copy to Roy Cooper, the governor. And then, because the legislature is the one that comes up with the accountability model that we have to follow and our students have to perform, I want copies sent to Representative Elmore and Representative Horn, who are co-chairs of the Standing Education Committee in the House. And then also send a copy to Bobby Hannick, our representative, Senator Steinberg, who is our representative, and then also the State Board of Education, Eric Davis, who's the chairman, and our representative, Jill Kamnitz. And that we would cover.
I think that since you want to go ahead and do that now, it would be a good idea to mail it to all the candidates who are up for state superintendent, because we don't know who that's going to be yet. I guess there'll be 2.
And hopefully by sending it to all these people, they can see just how it's affecting us, as well as a lot of other schools.
Affecting other schools.
Again, this is a small snapshot. This doesn't include baseball, softball.
Right.
Doesn't include the outright track swim teams that automatically go right into a regional or state, which we can understand that travel because you're already at that level. This is early round travel for state playoffs. The first round, when you are maybe a 30 seed going against whoever, and you might go out there and lose, or if you do win, you're getting this that you have to come back.
And how often's a 27th seed going to end up number 1 in the state? Probably 0.
So in terms of like the rest of the region too, well, this is a Currituck issue. If you go down to the southern part of eastern North Carolina, which is often our pairing, I mean, there's some very, very poor counties, and they're being asked to do this travel as well. I don't know where they come up with it, because we're very fortunate. We're able to house our players in a hotel. They're in and out in a night. So we're not the only ones facing it. So not that we had to carry the flag for everybody, but it's certainly, it's not just us that has that effect. I feel horrible for like the West Bladens and the Fairmonts of the world that have to come, travel to Currituck for a soccer game that they're going to lose 9-0 in the first round.
Well, those counties that are as far northeast and as far west, they're the ones paying the price for this mess.
Oh, forgot. We need to send a copy of this letter to Q Tucker, who's the head of the North Carolina High School Athletic Association.
Okay.
Don't want to leave her out.
So how did
that
how did that person, Q Tucker, how did they get in that position?
Oh, that's, geez, I did know the two guys, and one followed another, and then Q Tucker was third in line. It's just, you move up the line once you're in these
It's
positions.
inherited.
Basically.
Where is their office?
Oh, man, you ought to see their office.
Is it a profit for non-profit, for profit? Yeah, I've been in a couple of those
Calling it a
facilities.
nonprofit?
It is nonprofit in the sense that they're not out there to make money, but this covers their salaries.
Right.
This covers.
That's how a nonprofit works.
I call those non-profit, for profit.
It's a nonprofit. Yeah.
All right.
Oh, Charlie Adams was the one that was around for almost ever. And then Rick, was it Strunk? Who replaced him, and then when he retired, Q Tucker took his place.
Okay. All right. Sydney, Taylor, would y'all like to talk about this at all?
Well, I play the sports that, like, you go straight to regionals and states, and I'm really thankful to be able to go up the night before on those buses and be able to stay and to have the money for food while we're there from the school system, wherever it comes from, is really nice, especially for our athletes who may not have the funding themselves. It makes it feasible for them to play those sports and go and do those things. So it's really nice for us all. But so we're really thankful for that. But for the sports that do have to travel that far for things as such as first round, I know that's really difficult, and especially for, like they said, the like less fortunate counties that are in situations worse than. Anyways, I know that's definitely tough, and so I feel like there does have to be an answer. But I do also understand, like, playing the same people over and over again. But either way, like they said, like, you have to be the best to make it all the way to the top. So I get that point of view. If there are any other questions, I could definitely try to answer them, but I'll let Taylor speak first.
So I think this is a very sticky situation. So, like, for example, last year for volleyball, we were very fortunate. We were at home every round until the state championship. That was a very fortunate thing we were able to have. And obviously, majority of teams in North Carolina are not going to have that. So when it's like that for you, even playing every other day is just a lot on your body and different things like that, to also be going home super late from those games, having to do homework, everything like that. Because I don't know if you know this, just a little thing for volleyball. We have the highest team GPA at the high school, so a lot of our kids are taking a lot of classes and doing other things. So we also, all athletes have a lot of other things on their plate. But this year, we did have to travel in the third round, so leaving school early and different things like that is definitely not easy. And for volleyball, we have 6 rounds, right? Yeah. So 6 rounds, having to travel back to back to back is very hard, because you're getting back to school, maybe collecting classwork if you're lucky, and getting right back on a bus to go somewhere else. And so I think there does need to be more focus on the student part of the student athlete perspective, but I also get the thing of trying to get that 6 rounds within a certain period of time, because a lot of these kids also play travel sports, which cannot start until their school season ends. So they're meeting other deadlines, which they're paying for. So that's why I said I think it's a very sticky situation that's kind of hard to navigate for athletes, coaches, athletic directors, the community, different things like that. So, I mean, I don't know what the right solution is. I think sending a letter would definitely bring awareness to the issue that's probably happening for many other counties in the state. But
I definitely do think that the student aspect of student athlete for sports in that nature does get kind of overshadowed by the athlete portion when you get that far, which is just all in all kind of ironic, because at that point you're considered one of the best student athletes, but students being taken out of that title for a time period. And so it does get difficult, because they need to be in class, they need to be doing this, but you're going to have games back to back. And I understand they need to finish their seasons in decent times, because for basketball, for instance, those kids might want to go play baseball, but if their season's still going on, they're going to have to hold off on that. I know we had to hold our basketball games because Northeastern was still playing football 2 years ago maybe. But I think that if our travel was lower for those first rounds, then our students would be able to stay in class and would be in class more, because they wouldn't have to travel as far. And so that would be really beneficial in many aspects. And I definitely agree writing a letter to multiple different people, because some people may not, like the governor, may not even realize that this is a major issue for more than one school. So maybe by us starting a letter, we can start a chain reaction. Other people will follow. They'll realize it is a major issue, and then we can actually start to see a difference, and that will benefit all of our student athletes. Student comes first
That's
in
what
that
I was
statement
gonna
for a
say.
reason.
Let the awareness be known to a lot of our local
We need it to
schools,
be students.
and even send them a copy of the letter that we are sending, so they may want to follow suit and do the same. And I think with all of them bringing it to their attention, it may make an impact. And
It definitely is our rural counties, because those people in Raleigh and Chapel Hill and that area, they don't care because they're centrally located.
You know, I've seen this, you know, in other aspects of government, like commercial fishing, where the commissioners will pass a resolution asking for something to be done. I wonder if, you know, do you think we should pass a resolution, just write a letter, try to get the commissioners on board?
Well, let's, write the letter, send it to these people, and also have Todd, because he mentioned the Principals Association and Superintendents Association, and he can take this, letter to him and say this is a concern of Currituck County. Maybe, getting the commissioners to endorse that, because they're pretty well connected with state representatives and that, so.
And I wonder if we should get other counties on board with us.
Well, if we wait to do that, I want to get this letter out now.
Well, certainly send the letter, but then do
Yeah.
you think we should start recruiting other counties?
Oh, sure.
One more thing I wanted to say about the student athlete portion is I think it's also a two-way street, that both the students need to recognize their responsibility as a student athlete, along with the associations, different like that, because I feel like as a student athlete, you should also be aware that it's a big commitment, because you are going to have practice every day, you are going to be going to games, you are going to be getting home late at night, so understanding your commitment to that aspect is important too. Yeah, but also having others understand what it's like to live that daily lifestyle during a season. And we have multiple athletes that play 2 seasons of sports, 3 seasons of sports, so this is their life all school year.
2 sports in 1 season.
Yeah. So definitely getting that handled by association, different people, important state, but I also think it's a student athlete's responsibility to understand their commitment to as well.
And that could start at county level if we wanted to start focusing on that a little more, because I do think some athletes don't understand how important their student aspect is. And maybe if we had a workshop designed for our athletes even, each team needs to go to that and understand their responsibilities as a student also. That could help benefit us, so that when they leave for their games, they understand that you may leave at 1:30 and second bell starts at 1:32, so you're not going to go see that teacher for that day, but maybe you should go see that teacher and get your work before leaving, and that could be enforced a little stronger maybe. Just saying.
Well, some of the other things that the High School Athletic Association has done, and I've been here 100 years, we were in a conference at one time. We had Weldon in the conference, which is over Northampton County, and also Cape Hatteras was in the conference. Now, that's back when buses had governors on it, and they couldn't go any faster than 45 miles an hour. And it took 5 hours for Cape Hatteras to get to Weldon, and Weldon to get to Cape Hatteras. And I brought that up, and it was Charlie Adams, who was the head of the High School Athletic Association then. And I said, why don't we have split conferences so we don't have to travel so far? And he looked at me in front of a bunch of other principals. He said, there will be no split conferences in this state as long as I'm the head of the High School Athletic Association. Well, that next year, there was a split conference, and was right around where the High School Athletic Association was located.
Okay.
I think Airbuses can't go over 55 now. I mean, it's a long trip for our kids.
Oh, no. I follow some buses sometimes.
If
I'm
you're
not
in
going to get
Virginia,
into it.
that's a whole nother
I'm talking
story.
about coming back this way.
See, the pedal is to the floor, and we're maxing out.
I'm just going to tell you. Some of them can go fast in 55.
The new buses.
Yeah.
All right, any other questions, any discussion?
Matt, Ty, do you have anything else to say?
Okay,
Well, hopefully we can get something done this time.
I hope so. All right, thank you. All right, approval of consent agenda?
Motion to approve the consent agenda.
Second?
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Consent agenda is approved. Information items. We have a work session coming up April 2nd at the Knapp Professional Learning Center at 4 o'clock. And then our Board of Education meeting will start here at 6:30 that same day, April 2nd. Board member and superintendent comments. Start with Dr. Dobney.
And well, my brain's pretty much fried from that presentation, so I do have one thing to say. I was down at the high school baseball field looking at that new backstop that they have that has the nice brick along the bottom and then the black netting up at the top, and they're going to put black netting out in the outfield, and looks really, really nice. So.
Okay, Ms. Craft?
Yes, I visited all of our schools, but a few highlights. I did go to Knott's Island to their PE presentation showcase, and that was really nice. Yesterday I was at JP Knapp for the Mr. Martin has a unit that he does the Great Gatsby, and then he has a Cape Henry antique car. Owners came and brought their cars, and so I was at that. It's very interesting. Went to Moyock Elementary School's Glow Run fundraiser, and of course I said I went to the literacy fair at Griggs, and then I read at Jarvisburg, and I actually did read one of the Pete the Cat books. So just a good. Our schools are doing great things, and we're blessed.
Yes, we are. Mr. Croddick?
Let's see. I visited several schools. Also was at the PE presentation at Knott's Island Elementary. I was at the high school looking at the scoreboards and doing some other visiting. I would also like to talk about, we do have a lot of nice things going on, but one of the things that we don't have that's as nice is we don't have an as abundance of resources, meaning funds, coming from multiple sources as we used to. And it's still, everybody's pulling together to try to get things done. So sometimes might not seem like we care about certain things, but when you're in a position that you have to make some really tough choices and you're trying to do the best you can, and you have to be very diligent with your money. We spent some tonight, and we spent some regularly, but the commissioners, they have a tough time trying to work within their means without raising your taxes too. And unfortunately, it probably will come a time here shortly where I believe, at least, in order to perform to the level of services that we're going to desire to have, not only in the school system, we likely will see that. I'm not here to champion for anything but quality service to the end user. And all the components, whether it be scoreboards, track, we got a swim team that wants a pool. I'd love to be able to give it to them. The problem is that I'm looking at roof replacements at some schools, desks, chairs,
the track,
teachers' assistants, track. There's so many things. It really is, and you don't ever want to say no. But I want you to know that some things, unfortunately, just like in your family, there are wants, and some things are really needs, and then there's some things that you might prioritize over other things. But we really do, we really are concerned about everybody's want, and most importantly, we're concerned about their needs. And we're trying to, make some really good decisions that have a positive impact. And with that, I'd say, what is it getting ready to be? It's going to be Happy St. Patrick's Day, and God bless Currituck County.
Thank you, Mr. Croddick. Ms. Rose?
Well, I've been out and about, too, and seeing lots of good things go on. I celebrated Dr. Seuss's birthday over at Knott's Island. I've been out to the high school. I, too, am very impressed with their brick wall behind the home plate, and Mr. Hill does a real good job and takes a lot of pride in that field. I've been out and looked at, well, I didn't go today, so I haven't seen the most recent progress, but I have seen a lot going on with their greenhouse. That's way overdue, considering the old one was built in the 60s, but thank goodness we're able to fund that project. I want to congratulate our cheerleaders. They tell me, Sydney, what did they get? State champs? Do you remember what the competition was, Mr. Parker?
Conference champs, the state invitational champs, as well as the Coaches Association champs.
Okay, so our cheerleaders have won a lot of awards. We had 3 wrestlers, I believe, that went and competed in state. They did a good job and represented Currituck well, and our swim team did really well. And did they not have someone compete at the state level?
Yes.
I believe. So we're proud of all our athletes. Speaking of the swim team, at the last meeting, we had several parents come out, and I've been contacted by several who would like to see a pool for our high school swimmers. I, too, would love to see a pool, but at the tune of $2.5 million, I believe, something like that. 8 to 10 million for an enclosed pool. Obviously, we don't have that money in our fund balance, so we can't shift it.
No, we don't have that kind of money in the fund balance.
But
Do that.
I'm on board with you for a pool, and anything we can do to get a pool in our county for our students, I certainly would support that. Teachers and other school employees, it is budget time coming up. And if you don't share your needs with your building administrator, we can't even put them on the piece of paper to try and fund the needs. So please, 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 please talk to your administrators about what you need. Instructional materials, capital improvements. We do have to prioritize, as Mr. Craddock said. There's not a pot of gold anywhere that's bottomless, but we'll do all we can to help you and to meet the needs of our children.
Thank you. All right. Mr. Mark?
Just an informational item for the board. If you remember in the work session for the mobile unit contract, we're going to put in the minutes that you were okay with the 5-year lease to purchase option.
Yes.
So I went in the contract and checked that option so that the commissioners will know what you're comfortable with, and then we can move forward on the conversation of funding. So that's that. You heard in some of the announcements from the schools that a couple of our student board members won some awards and competitions, and I also think Sydney won something at FFA, didn't you, recently?
I placed first at prepared public speaking at the federation level, and regionals is supposed to be in like 2 weeks, I think, but it's not looking as if that's going to happen due to our virus going around.
Yes.
How did the FFA group do as a whole?
We swiped federation and won first in all events, including like all LDEs, which is leadership development events.
Good for y'all.
Speaking of cancellation of events, FBLA State Conference has been canceled for next week. There is a lot of mixed emotions about it right now, but it was decided by the board this afternoon that it was in the best interest not to have a lot of people in Greensboro next week.
So basically you have an opening in your calendar for something else to do, right? For the entire week. Okay. So we'll think of some assignments to fill that gap so you don't have any free time. We don't want you to become mischievous in your free time.
Taylor, about how many students attend that?
So usually it's about anywhere, it just depends every year. It fluctuates 1,800 to 2,200. Okay. But this year there was like a 500 member increase in participation. We were supposed to have, including like advisors and stuff like that, $2,700 to $2,800 in the conference. But since that is such a big number, it was decided not to.
And where was it to be held?
Curry Convention Center. It's like a big hotel/convention center in Greensboro.
Greensboro.
Yes. So unfortunately, that will not be happening. But everything's still being decided because it has a lot to do with like national things, and there's just a lot of stuff still left.
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Not to leave anybody out, Ms. President, anything noteworthy happening over at COA? That's this year, right? You're the SGA president? Okay. I was going to say, you looked at me like, what?
We're supposed to have a big student government conference with all the schools in North Carolina, all the community colleges. That's supposed to be April 3rd through 6th, but I don't know what's going to happen with that.
Yeah.
I don't know if I'm hoping it's on or if I'm hoping that it canceled because I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
I saw where they canceled a trip, a COA trip.
I know that the staff trips, there was supposed to be some conferences and stuff going on this weekend for some staff at COA, and those have all been canceled. So.
Thank you.
Miss Olivia, what's up in your world these days? Anything special you want to announce? Nothing? Nothing? Courses are going okay? Okay. Managing everything fine? Everything thumbs up? Okay, good.
I invited the president of COA to come to a student government event that we're having at NAP in the middle of April. It's an Earth Day celebration.
Okay.
Let us know about
Yeah.
that, Mallory.
I invited him to come down to that, so
Okay.
hopefully.
Keep us posted.
Let us know.
Is that NAP student government or is the COA NAP student government? Okay.
Good.
Good.
Okay.
Did anyone go to that event at Sanctuary with the, how was that?
Good.
This is wine tasting and socialization and snacks, and it was good.
You know, people.
Yes, I'm on a kid wind team making a wind turbine, and they'll be there, so you guys should definitely come to that. It's a really big deal. No, really.
Mark your calendars, 10 to 2.
Yeah.
How about
It's a STEAM event.
how about you guys email me? Mallory, email me the COA president date, and Taylor, email me the STEAM event. Oh, is that Miss Mawinnie's STEAM? Okay, got that STEAM event already. Okay. I thought people were just coming up with STEAM events like every other week. I didn't know. Okay.
Okay. All right. Is
Now I'm
that it?
finished.
Okay. All right. Mr. Stefanik and myself, we've met with some developers concerning the new school that will be going in Moyock, and we're trying to get some test results in. Currently, we're trying to compare apples to apples on a few sites that we have in mind. But right now, we're doing some of our due diligence behind the scenes because a track has not been chosen at this point, to move forward with. But we've got a lot of questions being answered behind the scenes concerning that. We've got an event to go to this Saturday, which I'm excited about. It's the NERESA Superintendents for Legislative Get-Together. We're over at Dwayne and Kathy Stallings' house, March 14th. That should be a fun event to attend. My grandchildren are involved in the Central Elementary and Griggs Elementary Color Run. That's coming up, and they're taking donations, online donations for that. And it sounds like a real fun event, and the proceeds of the funds will go for the PE equipment for both schools. I'm excited about the greenhouse to see something finally happening there. And then please check all the activities on the calendar. Spring is in the air. I'm excited to see all my bulbs coming up, tulips and daffodils and everything else. So that means spring can't be far behind. So check those events, and that's all I have. Do I have a motion that we adjourn the meeting?
I'll make a motion. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
All right. Thank you. Have a good evening.